All right, I had my camera set up to record some other stuff, so I figured I'd use it as an opportunity to reflect a little bit on Mythos and Project Glasswing that came out of Anthropic last week. Yeah, if you're not already aware, Anthropic threw a cat amongst the pigeons, the cybersecurity ecosystem pigeons last week, by saying that they would be holding off on releasing their Mythos, the latest and greatest model, because it was too powerful and finding a whole bunch of issues in all sorts of software and applications out there. And as a result of that, they gave it to a couple of dozen fairly significant large organizations and said, good luck to you, go find as much and figure out how to find all the issues in your software and get them fixed. And a number of those, apparently Anthropic themselves found hundreds or reported hundreds and found thousands, and really freaked out the ecosystem. The dust has settled a bit now. There's a little bit less freak out, although it really did raise, for many of us, some questions and bring to light the reality that we're facing into and the future that we're going to have to deal with. I don't think anyone believes that there aren't an endless list of security vulnerabilities in the code and the apps and all the systems and whatnot that we use and rely on every day. I think we're all pretty recognizing of that nowadays. And realistically, AI is going to be able to find that pretty rapidly just because it can scale. As long as it doesn't run out of GPUs, it should be fine at finding all of that stuff. And eventually someone will figure out and build product or a service that helps to then fix all those vulnerabilities. But really the difference, I think, that we're all recognizing is just the scale and the rate and the speed at which this is now going to be occurring. I think all the processes and the vulnerabilities and all the other things that we're used to dealing with, we're used to Patch Wednesday or Patch Tuesday. Once a month, patches get released and we roll them out and we test all of that. And if you're in a large organization, you've got a whole team that is looking after that sort of thing. But when we're talking about thousands of vulnerabilities being released or disclosed to organizations on any given day, that's a whole other problem. It's just a massive, massive pile of fixes and things that really do need to get fixed. These are vulnerabilities out there. Now, whether or not anyone's going to be able to attack them, whole other question. But the reality is, if you're notified of and someone points out that there's a vulnerability in your software or your application or your service, you're obligated to fix it. And when you're getting dozens or hundreds or thousands of those on any given week, all of a sudden, any other progress on anything else that's going on is going to stop until you figure out how to deal with that stuff. Now, large organizations have teams. They're going to be able to deal with that. They'll work through it. They'll figure it out. They'll subscribe to Mythos and use it to fix their own stuff and release all the packages and build all the agentic solution to this. But obviously, at Cinch, we care about and think about small businesses and the implications for them. And really importantly, the larger organizations that depend on and rely on them. And if you're a small team and you start getting hit by this sort of stuff, and I think we have to assume it will happen, might not be next week, next month, may not even be this year, but it's going to happen at some point. You're just going to drown. It's just not something as a small tech company you're going to be well placed to do unless you dramatically shift and change. And then even if you're not a tech company, all businesses depend on and rely on technology nowadays. So you will have to release the Windows updates that get pushed urgently, the Mac updates, your Chrome's going to get updated every 3 seconds. All the other software that you use, whether it's on your machine or the SaaS tools and whatnot, they're going to start to get all these updates, and you're going to just be constantly dealing with the changes that introduces. And so we need to kind of acknowledge, I think, and begin to prepare and work with small businesses to help them grapple with that new reality that will come. And it's something that we're thinking about internally at Cinch about how we can support and enable that. But the other thing to think about, and I want to kind of encourage everyone in the sort of cybersecurity ecosystem to consider, is a concept I'm playing around with, which is the concept of a compliance DDoS attack, in essence. We have a lot of issues, and I'll probably explore this a little bit further, but we depend on, and we have processes built up around running assurance and assessing all of our suppliers. Typically, it'll start with a procurement questionnaire, hundreds of questions. No one really understands where they come from or potentially what they're trying to solve for. And if you're a small business, you barely even understand what the question is, let alone how to answer it. And then maybe that's happening. It takes a few weeks to respond to, get right, go through the process, get someone to accept the risk on the end of that. And then perhaps it gets reviewed again in 12 months' time, or when the contract comes up for renewal in 5 years, or whenever a regulation changes. If patches and issues are happening every single day, or hundreds each week or month, that sort of time frame and that situation, the reviewing and assessing businesses at that sort of frequency is just completely implausible and irrelevant, really, I think, moving forward. So we need to figure out a new way. We need to get to that continual assurance processes that we all want, that we're striving for. And really importantly, from my perspective, I think one of the key things we all in larger organizations, those large organizations that we work with or that we would like to be working with, I think it's really important that we all embrace the small businesses in our ecosystem and look to partner and support them through this rapid change. Because if we don't, we're going to be stuck, with our AI overlords just taking whatever Anthropic or OpenAI or Google decide to give us. We will lose out on that competitive, innovative advantage that we have, and we just will not be able to deliver safely and consistently and consistent with all of the obligations that we have. We won't be able to deliver the services and the products and whatnot that ultimately we are in business to do. Just a few thoughts kicking around. We're definitely very mindful of this at Cinch and looking for ways that we can help the ecosystem. If this is something that you're equally concerned about or in a position to actually do something about, reach out. I'd love to have a chat.